Welcome to another Apollo Papyrus Podcast episode. I am Aaron Apollo Camp. For the 350th episode of this podcast, my interview guest is an author, coach, book editor, and ghostwriter, and she has written a handbook titled Unlock Your Writing Genius. Her name is Dawn Josephson, and my interview with Dawn will follow the note-taking sounds. Dawn Josephson, welcome to the Apollo Papyrus Podcast.
Thank you so much.
Feel free to introduce yourself to our listeners.
I am Dawn Josephson, the Master Writing Coach, and I help speakers, coaches, and consultants transform their ideas and their expertise into nonfiction books, whose goal is to enhance their credibility, boost their positioning, and then ultimately increase their profits.
As you mentioned in your introduction, you own your own author coaching and book editing services company, and I think your company provides some other types of services to authors as well. What services does your company provide, and do you specialize in serving just nonfiction authors, or do you serve fiction authors as well?
The primary focus is nonfiction authors, specifically speakers, consultants, coaches, those kinds of people who need books to grow their business or build their credibility. So to those people, we offer coaching services, writing coaching, as well as manuscript editing. With that said, we do help some fiction authors. It's not our core specialty, but sometimes people are multi-dimensional, and a lot of our clients, even though they are speakers or consultants, they don't just want to write nonfiction. Sometimes they have great ideas for fiction stories, and we don't help every single fiction author. It really depends on the story, but there are some that we do take on just because people do more than one thing. They do more than nonfiction books.
How many authors have you provided your services for, and who are some of your notable authors that you've provided services for?
Well, I've been doing this since 1998. So I think it's safe to say that the number of people I've helped is in the very high hundreds, if not thousands. I've never counted the exact number after so many years. A lot of the clients that I serve, like I said, they are speakers, they are consultants, they are coaches. They typically sell their books to their audience, to their attendees. They also make bookstore sales. They do website sales, of course, but their main goal is their book is an extension of their brand, and they want their book to bring them more coaching business, more consulting business, more speaking gigs, and higher fees. So typically their books are not, on the newsstand bestseller list, because that's not what they're written for. They're written to give to their clients as a freebie, often as a value added as part of the speaking fee. And then just the fact of having a book published elevates their credibility. But there are many, many speakers. Whether or not you've heard of them, I'm not sure. There is Vera Jones. She's a wonderful corporate speaker. She used to be a professional women's basketball association player. She was a sportscaster for women's basketball events, and now she speaks about resilience and leadership. So she's been a wonderful, wonderful client. I've got another one who speaks about mindful photography. His name is Joe Van Wyck, out in beautiful Colorado, and he helps people tap into their mindfulness using smartphone photography. So there's so many clients. They have such unique points of views, all with the goal of building their brand and their consulting, speaking, or coaching businesses.
Regarding your book editing services, do you specialize in just like one type of editing, like developmental editing or copy editing or line editing or proofreading, or do you provide multiple different types of editing services?
Definitely multiple different types. Everyone comes with a book in a different stage of development. Some come and the book is pretty tight. It really only needs a proofread. And if that's all it needs, then that's the only thing that makes sense to do. Others come with a very sketchy kind of outline. It's really not very developed. It has a lot of holes, maybe things just aren't quite making sense. And so, yeah, they need a lot more work. So we meet people where they are. And just because someone comes with a polished manuscript doesn't make them any better. They've just perhaps spent more time or gotten more feedback or whatever the case is. Everyone's different. And wherever you come, whatever state, you can take it from.
How do you work with your clients as a ghostwriter? Because you provide ghostwriting services as well.
I do on occasion, yes. I used to do a lot more ghostwriting than I do today. I've had to limit it because ghostwriting is a creatively draining process. And after doing so many, you need to step back sometimes. But the ghostwriting, it's a very close relationship you need to have with the ghostwriter and the client. So it's all about finding the right fit. So not everyone is a good fit for me for ghostwriting, and that is okay because someone is out there who will be a good fit for that client. It's almost like a little mini marriage because I mean, you really need to get into the person's head and pull out the vision that they have. So it's a process where we either meet in person for several days, or we do as much as we can with technology now over Zoom and phone and email. But it is intense sessions of getting the ideas out of the person's head through interviews, through looking at their past writing, maybe their scribbles that they have on the back of napkins, and a whole lot of talking with them, recording everything to get all those great things that they say and really getting not just the words out of their brain, basically, but also getting their vision, helping them figure out who the real audience is for this book and what content really should be in this book, because most of us have many books worth in our brains. So it's getting out the right information, making sure that the author's voice always remains in the forefront, because it's their book. It has to reflect their thoughts, their passion, their voice, their beliefs. So getting all that information out is a process. It takes time. And then once we get everything out in basically rough draft, just their words out, we can start organizing and massaging and rearranging and getting the words and the chapters where they need to be. It's definitely a much bigger process than just coaching or editing.
Do you provide book marketing services? And if so, how do those work?
The book marketing services, it's more about helping the author create a plan that's going to work for their goals. So I help them define what their goals are. And then based on their goals, based on their budget, help them figure out what's going to make the most sense. So where can they most effectively use their money in order to build notoriety, credibility, or exposure for their book. So creating the plan, they are responsible for implementing the plan. So they have, a whole guide sheet of what to do. Here's where you should be placing ads. Here's where the ads should be. Here's like social media stuff. Here's about outreach and going out into your network. Working your past client list, building your newsletter, all these elements, giving them the how to and empowering them to do it themselves, because chances are that nobody you hire to do your marketing is going to be as passionate as you, the author, are. So I really encourage authors to not try to delegate marketing 100% to somebody else. You really do need to step into that role because you, as the author, are always, always going to be your book's best salesperson. No one can replicate the passion that you have for your book.
Do you work with independently, traditionally, or hybrid published authors, or do you work with a combination thereof?
All of the above. Again, when I first start working with someone, and it's all about looking at what their long-term goal is. What do they want this book for? And if they want a book that um, has bigger exposure to like a general market, a mass market, then it might make more sense for them to seek out a traditional publisher and we go down that path. If they want to use their book as a big business card, something that they can give away in order to get more coaching, more speaking, more whatever it is they need for their business, then it's going to make more sense for them to self-publish. And sometimes people need that hybrid approach. So it's all about looking at their goals and helping them go down whatever path makes the most sense for them. I don't think anything in life is a one size fits all for every single person on the planet. So one path is not better than the other. It is just the best path for you.
My next question is going to be about a couple of free documents that are available for download off of your website, and I'll include a link to the page containing the download links in the text description of the episode once it's uploaded. But you have a free handbook titled Unlock Your Writing Genius and a free checklist titled The Ultimate Book Writing and Publishing Checklist. How do the handbook and the checklist work?
Well, I'll start with the checklist only because that one was produced first. It is, as the name says, it's a checklist, and it goes through the book writing, publishing process and lays it out step by step in a checklist format. It's 20, I forget how many pages, 20 something pages. So it's a pretty detailed checklist, gives explanation about what to do, why you're doing it, any other tips that might be relevant for that particular item. And if you follow the checklist, you can write and publish a book. Now, granted, you're not going to, it's a checklist. So yes, you can technically read a checklist in 20 minutes. It doesn't mean your book's going to be written in 20 minutes. It means you read item one, and then once you do it, you check it off. And it might take you a week or 2 or 3 to do item one, but you have the game plan now that you know what to do in what order. So that is the book writing and publishing checklist. The other one, Unlock Your Writing Genius, Kickstart Your Creativity, Write Your Book, and Never Run Out of Ideas, is really geared for people who are, trying to get that idea. We all have great ideas, but which one do we follow? Or maybe you're a little stuck. Maybe the ideas just aren't flowing the past couple of weeks for some reason. So this is really to help you figure out, what idea you should follow, how to enhance your creativity so that maybe you can generate new ideas, or maybe you can get a better approach to fine-tuning those ideas. It's really all about the creative process, which is so important for authors.
How can authors who are considering your services get in touch with you and obtain your services?
My website is dawnjosephson.com. Everything on there, there's a contact form, and they could send a message. The free products that you just mentioned, they are available for free. So you just go on the website and click the download button and you can get them. Also, they can find me on, the various social media channels on Facebook and Instagram, as well as LinkedIn. On Instagram, it's Writing Coach Dawn. And on Facebook, it's Master Writing Coach.
You've written a ton of articles as an executive contributor to Brainz Magazine And you've written articles for tons of other publications. I think you even have your own blog as well.
Mhm.
What topics do you write articles and blog posts about?
I write about the writing and publishing process, and a lot of it, because I am a writing coach, I focus a lot on the mindset, um, getting started, because that's a huge thing for authors, that they have an idea and they sit on that idea forever. Because the first step is always the hardest. Getting started is tough. And so I write a lot about how to take those ideas out of your head and turn them into reality. I write a lot about writing motivation, about how to keep yourself going, because writing a book, it's not something you do in a day. It's something you do in many, many, many days. And keeping that sustained motivation over the long term is difficult for a lot of people, and they lose steam halfway through. And so I give them tools on how to keep that motivation going. I write about creativity and how to overcome mental blocks, writer's blocks, things that are keeping you from reaching that goal, which is having a published book. I also offer tips on, once the book is published, what to do with it, how to market it, how to get it in front of people, how to use it to build your business.
One thing that I love you doing is that you help children with learning disabilities master reading and writing skills. Do you do that work as a job or as volunteer work? And what is it like to work with children with learning disabilities to develop their reading and writing skills?
I set aside about 10 to 15 hours a week and work with kids. Sometimes it's pro bono, sometimes it's not. It really just depends on the situation and who or why I'm being brought in. But a lot of these kids have some kind of learning difference. Perhaps it's dyslexia, perhaps it's ADHD, perhaps, it could be anything. And they have a hard time. Mastering phonics, mastering writing a sentence, mastering so many things. So I just like to give back whenever I can and help the next generation, grow that next generation of readers and writers out there. And so I work with them to help them master their reading skills for whatever their age level is, as well as their writing. And it really is wonderful and amazing to work with a child for a sustained amount of time, a few months, even up to a year, and just see the transformation in their abilities. It's so wonderful and gratifying.
Dawn, thank you for appearing on the Apollo Papyrus podcast. You were a wonderful person to interview.
Well, thank you so much.
Dawn's handbook and writer checklist are completely free, and I'll include a link to her webpage where you can find both of them in the text description of this episode. It's been an amazing first 350 episodes of this podcast, and I look forward to producing many more podcast episodes in the future. This is Aaron Apollo Camp reminding y'all to find your writing and reading purpose. Bye for now. Copyright 2025, Aaron Apollo Camp, all rights reserved. This podcast episode is intended for the private listening of our audience. Any reuse or retransmission of this podcast episode without the express written consent of the podcast host is prohibited except under fair use guidelines. Royalty-free music and sound effects obtained from https://www.zapsplat.com.